What's up everyone? Happy Monday. In today's trade recap video, I'm going to go over the 3 trades that I took, 2 on Tesla, 1 on MRNA, all to the downside, and made $590 in the first 15 minutes. And this video is going to highlight one of my weaknesses, that every now and then when major technical levels break, sometimes it's worth for me to try to be a little bit more patient with a trade. I still obviously want to take the quick move, but maybe trying to hold for longer than 1 or 2 minutes like I normally do. And just to go over that today, looking at Tesla. So Tesla on the daily chart, this 700 has been a major area. Had a nice candle a couple days ago, looked like it was going to break out. If anybody was in this trade for the possible breakout, it had a pretty nasty stuff the prior day, and then it had some negative news in the pre-market and it was gapping down. So just looking at this visually, if it took out this 700 to the downside, knowing that that was massive support before, it did look like it had some downside room. Nobody knows how far down this is going to go, but when I looked at this, I was thinking maybe this could get to 690, 680, also knowing where the 20 SMA was. So there was a decent amount of downside, and then I ended up taking that trade. I got a really good entry right before that 700 break and got out incredibly fast. So this is the downside mentality of taking the really fast move. I need to eventually take that trade, but maybe try my best to hold just a little bit only when very significant support levels break or resistance levels break, just to give it a chance. So that's what I'm really going to try to work on moving forward, just realizing that when those major levels get taken out, that it's worth trying to be just slightly more patient, or at least maybe in that specific situation, leave a runner, even though normally I don't do that just because of the possibility of how far it could go. There's no such thing as perfection when it comes to trading. It's all about taking those trades and then being able to try to see, hey, how could I have done better? What could I have done different? And then it's that constant process of refining. And that pretty much just goes on forever as long as you're a trader. And now let's get into the watch list. So I was looking at Tesla, Apple, MRNA, AMD, Robinhood, and Sono. And one thing I put in the mental notes is that I'm trying to focus on trading just a little bit less. As a scalper, I'm guilty of feeling the need to be incredibly active each day. So just realizing that it only takes a few good days a month to put up good P&L, and I'm going to make sure to try to focus on those big breakout or big breakdown days where it's very easy to see that the momentum and the volatility has picked up, and then try to take advantage of those days. And let's be honest, I have a YouTube channel. I want to put out consistent content, so I can feel the need sometimes to take trades just because I need to get a video out there, and I want to make sure that I don't let that get in my way, and I'm really going to try to just trade a little bit less. And now to get into the technicals of everything, starting with the market first. So when it comes to SPY, I was looking at prior day's high, 445.94. It was trading a little lower, but if the dip got bought and it took that out, of course it can go higher. Being that it was trading below prior day's low, it did look like it had some downside room to the 9 EMA, so just knowing where that was, but also realizing that 444 to right around 442 was support. And now the Qs, so the daily looked pretty good for a breakout, but we all know it doesn't do what you want it to do, even though it looked good. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for that to happen. The levels I was looking at, prior day's high, 369.16, also knowing all-time high was above. And if it took out prior day's low, it also was going to get below the 9 EMA, knowing where the 20 SMA was on the daily, because that would be support. And if it took that out, it did look like it had some downside room. And now Tesla, and the main levels that I was looking at was prior day's high, prior day low. It was obviously trading well below prior day low, knowing that it lost the 9 EMA on the daily, and then that's 700. Major area of support. If it loses that, it did look like it had some downside room. And now Apple, and this looked pretty good. It's had a nice move off the short-term moving averages, long period of consolidation, all-time high was at 150. So I thought if it could make a new all-time high, maybe this could catch some momentum. So the levels I was looking at was obviously that all-time high 150, prior day high, pre-market high, prior day low, and pre-market low. And now MRNA, as you can see on the daily, nice bear flag, just in case the dip got bought. Wanted to know where prior day's high was, 406.32. And then these downside levels, prior day's low, 387.10. And then this major area of support, 380. If it broke that, it did look like it had some downside room. And now AMD, which still has a very strong daily chart, so had a pretty insane run, pulled back to the 9 EMA, consolidated for a handful of days. Nice candle the prior day, so the levels I was looking at, 111.71. If it took out that prior day's high, it did look pretty good to the upside. And then also knowing where pre-market high was, pre-market low was, and then prior day low. And now Robinhood, which obviously had a very crazy run after the IPO, pulled back. It's hanging right around the 9 EMA. The prior day was the first green candle in a little bit. I didn't love the daily chart because there's still a lot of resistance above, but just knowing that if it took out prior day's high, maybe it had the chance to catch some momentum. So the levels I was looking at, Prior day's high, 53.20, knowing where pre-market high was, pre-market low, and then obviously prior day low, 48.22. And now Sono, which had the big gap up, decent amount of volume trading pre-market. The big gap ups can be tough to trade, but felt like it was worth having on watch. Maybe it could catch momentum. The levels I was looking at was all-time high, 44.72, pre-market high, 43.44, and pre-market low, 40.91. Okay, now the first trade on Tesla, so I had the push off the open, pretty aggressive rejection, got below VWAP, below the 9, few minutes of consolidation. That looks like a nice flag pattern, and I ended up going short as it broke 702, and I got 5 700 puts filled at $13.40. And that looked pretty good. So that was a flag pattern that I thought was going to have some follow through. And as it bounced off 701, it did not go quick. And when it started to move against me, just to be safe, I got out of the trade and I got filled on those contracts at $13. And here's the next trade, which is going to be on MRNA to the downside. So I had a big move off the open, just knowing that the daily is very extended. Nice flag pattern as it comes towards the lows. I end up going short and I took 5 puts, the 365s, and I got filled at $15.65. And the negative with this trade is that the option spreads were pretty wide. So I made a quick decision. The setup looked good. I just took it. But looking back, I would have been better off just taking a couple hundred shares because the spread was a lot better versus the options. And MRNA ends up breaking 364 and makes a new low a day and right at 362. It's just having trouble breaking it. Spreads are wide, recognizing that now and realizing that it's very volatile. I don't want to be caught in any sort of bounce. And I just take the quick profits and I got filled on those contracts at $16.35. And then here's the third trade on Tesla. So had that quick pop above VWAP. I'm glad that I got out because you never know if that was going to be something worse. And I got a pretty good entry right there. So nice flag pattern. As it started to show some weakness, I got short immediately when I saw that. And I got the 700 puts and I got filled at $13.52. And this is where I should have realized that I feel like I got a pretty good entry. If it takes out that 700 and I see a lot of volume and I start to see the tape speed up, just knowing that on the daily chart, there's a possibility for this to really go to the downside, try to be just slightly more patient. So Tesla ended up getting to 700, eventually breaking it and having a very nice move lower. And like the true scalper in me, I ended up taking quick profits and I got out of those contracts at $14.40. So that first trade that I took was a loss, and I think I did a really good job at waiting for good setups, getting that money back and more. So I made $350 on MRNA and $240 on Tesla to be up $590, which is great. That was the trade recap. I appreciate you watching the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I just want to highlight a couple really cool things that I have to offer. The first is my newsletter watch list that I'm going to be posting on my private Twitter 30 minutes before the open of each trading day. Here's an example of what that's going to look like. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the market, the SPY, the Qs, the upside levels, the downside levels, and then a sentence or two as to the overall bigger picture. Make sure to highlight any market news or events that are happening that day. And then I'm going to list the 4 to 6 stocks that I'm watching that day. If there's any company specific news, all the upside levels and the downside levels, and then do a quick bigger picture, a couple sentences as to what's going on in the daily chart. This is everything that's in my head prior to market open. This is how I prepare, and a really easy way to get access to my trading process. One page with everything I'm looking at, all the technical levels, and all the news delivered 30 minutes before market open in a really organized fashion. Also, I have a call service, so if you want something that's a little bit less of a commitment, you want to connect with me directly, talk about my trading, my journey along the way, and just connect with another trader, this is really great. And this can be a video call or a regular call, whatever you're comfortable with. It's a one-time fee and it's going to be for 1 hour. So if you're interested in either one of these, I will put the links in the description below.